Ears and Beers, episode 36. Mountaineers lose at the Coliseum to Baylor. But first, what are we drinking? I am drinking. I love this beer. I'm holding it up to the camera right now. A little whitewashed there. I'm holding it up to the camera right now. If you're watching on YouTube, it's called Bonch, and it's by 11th Hour Brewing Company. It's a combination of an ale and a wheat beer. It's really unique. It's got a really unique taste. It's very light, easy drinkable, will go down nice and smooth, unlike that loss to the Baylor Bears. Prost. Oh, yeah. Mountaineers lose to Baylor at home at the Coliseum, 77-68, the final. At times, it felt like it was going to be a blowout right early in the first half. Other times, Mountaineers had a really good chance to win that one. It feels like this team just missed a big opportunity there at the Coliseum. That game was there for the taking. That's a frustrating one to drop in the context of this season, and in the context of what Baylor is. They're a very good team who's struggling right now. Their best scorer didn't play tonight. Cryer and Meyer, their other two best players, were in foul trouble late. Foul trouble down the stretch. You couldn't take advantage. Like that feels like a missed opportunity to get a much needed big win there. Another quad one win. That game was there for the taking, and that's a tough one to drop. This team, for as much as we give them credit for always being in the fight, for never falling out of it, Baylor goes on a 21-3 run in the first half, and you're able to claw back into that one. Somehow Baylor goes on a 21-3 run, and we don't take a timeout. But again, I'm done complaining about that. I've been complaining about that all season. It just is what it is. We don't believe in taking timeouts when the other team goes on a massive run and we're on a scoring drought. Whatever. This team doesn't die, but man, they just also don't finish. They're just putrid around the rim. Like, I would say I've never seen a team struggle around the rim like this one does. But I'm a WVU fan, so I have. I see this way too often. Similar issue that we had last year. At one point late in the second half, we had 11 offensive rebounds and only 2 points to show for it. They're just not good around the rim. No touch around the rim. They were 7 for 22 on layups tonight. Over the last two games against Kansas and Baylor, they're shooting under 35% in the paint over the last two games. That's just not going to get it done, especially not against good teams. And Taz just wasn't the same player in the second half. He hasn't been the same player since he came back from COVID. He's dealing with the ankle. We all know too. He finished with 18 points, but he still felt off. He was missing open looks out there. He was turning the ball over. He was just sloppy with the handles, things that we don't see from Taz often. He looks fatigued. He looks a little off. And you don't like to speculate about these things, but we all know he just had COVID, and clearly he's not back to where he was. Bob Huggins said that as much. In his press conference leading up to this game, Bob Huggins talked about how Taz Sherman wasn't 100%, said that he's not back to where he was at before COVID. And that's pretty clear. Even though he had 18 points tonight, it's still not the same from Taz. A couple other things, it's just the same problems. It is starting to get frustrating because, listen, Bob Huggins is a Hall of Fame coach. I've said this a few times. I'm sure I'll say it again. That dude has forgotten more about basketball than I'll ever know. But it is frustrating when this was, game 17 on the season now, and a lot of the same problems remain that were there game 1, game 7, game 17. You can't score in the paint. You got no touch, no finish around the rim, and it's ugly and it's costing you games. You're really struggling to move the ball. There's too much stagnant dribbling. There's not enough team assists. You had 10 tonight, and that's better than it was than the 5 assists you had on Saturday in Kansas, which is almost impossible to do. Only have 5 team assists throughout the game. You had 10 tonight. That's better, but that's still not good enough. Points in the paint, 28-18 Baylor. That's still too large of a discrepancy. And this team's still too often going on long scoring droughts. I mentioned the 21-3 run for Baylor in the first half that felt like it buried you at the time. And then late, when the Bears pulled away, it was a 16-5 run for Baylor in there late before WVU got a couple garbage time buckets. WVU at one point down that stretch there at the end of the game missed 11. Beer burp. Missed 11 out of 12 shots down the stretch there till they made, again, a couple garbage time baskets. That's not going to cut it against good teams. It's not going to cut it in the Big 12, but particularly not against Kansas and Baylor. And you got Texas Tech coming up at the weekend and another massive game at the Coliseum at home on Saturday. No, sorry, that one is down in Lubbock. My fault. But still, it's frustrating. The same problems remain. This song remains the same, to quote Led Zeppelin. No points in the paint, no assists, not enough ball movement, long scoring droughts, no touch around the rim. It's frustrating. And it's got to get going in the right direction because there's no easy wins left on this schedule. Okay, yeah, you still play Oklahoma twice. They're tough. You still play TCU twice. They're not the pushover they used to be. You should feel good about beating Kansas State and Oklahoma State again, but you have to play those games on the road now. There's no gimmies this year. And if there were, we know these guys can't make layups. They miss bunnies all the time anyways. There's no bunnies on this schedule. There's no gimmies. You can't let this thing slide too much in a conference like the Big 12. That is, if you don't want to be sweating on Selection Sunday. A couple more things. They gotta find something, a middle ground, a solution with Isaiah Cottrell. After a couple encouraging performances, he's now had a couple brutal performances. He doesn't have the strength to play as a 5, to play as a true big man, coming off that Achilles injury, clearly not doing any strength training, just doing rehab over the offseason. If this team had a legitimate 5, that would really benefit Cottrell, I think. But that's not the case. But I don't think they can be continuing to ask him to play that role. He's just not strong enough. It's not working out. And like everybody else on this team, he just doesn't have the touch around the rim. They got to find a solution with Cottrell. Because what felt like he was starting to scratch the surface there at one point, it's gone the opposite direction these past few games. The good news, maybe one nugget of good news as we start to wrap this up and get out of here. Malik Curry's getting better and better. Led the team with 19 points today, 7 for 12 shooting, really efficient shooting there from Malik Curry. Hold on, I got the stats right here as well, too. And no turnovers. That's what I thought. I wanted to double check. 19 points, no turnovers, shot better than 50% from the field, 5 for 5 from the free throw line, and had 6 rebounds in there as well. Only 1 assist. You'd like to see him getting a couple more assists, but Malik Curry is starting to emerge. That has to be encouraging. That is important. They need that. It's tough at times because you want to see him and Taz and Sean on the court together. But those 3 also, they have their defensive limitations. And so when you put Ketty out there, it gets better defensively, but then you start to struggle more offensively. All that said, though, Curry is getting better and better. The game is settling down for him now in the Big 12, and that's encouraging. They needed a ball handler to emerge, and Malik Curry has done that. Again, not perfect yet. It needs to tighten it up defensively a little bit. You want to see him getting some more assists, but if that continues, that's going to be a big development for this team. Cottrell, maybe arrow pointed down. Curry, arrow pointed up. Everybody else, it's been a mixed bag. I'm confident in Taz. I mean, again, an off night for him, and he still had 18 points, but shot less than 33% from the field. They need more from him. I'm confident they will get that, though. But, like if the goal, and Crowley and I talked about this before the season, the expectation for this WVU basketball team, we wanted to make the tournament. We wanted to get to Selection Sunday and not be sweating it out, right? If the goal is to be comfortable and confident on Selection Sunday, you got to start getting some of these games against the top tier teams. You've got this stretch of 3 here: Kansas, Baylor, and then Texas Tech. I don't want to say Saturday is a must win, but you've got to start winning some of these games against ranked opponents. The Texas game to start conference slate, you had at least some rhyme and reason there. Taz was out. Gabe was out. Ketty was out. Or was it Kobe that was out, I think? You were very shorthanded. Now, if you want to get into the tournament, you got to start getting some of these games. And like I said, this one tonight hurts because that felt like a game that was there for the taking. Baylor without their leading scorer, two of their best players in foul trouble down the stretch. You fell behind early, and you were still kind of playing catch up the whole way. And I know WVU held the lead there for a few minutes. We had the lead there for a few minutes in the second half, but it was just too inconsistent. And it's the same problems, and they've got to get it squared away. And it would be great if they could do so Saturday against Texas Tech at noon. That's going to do it for this episode 36. Thanks for rocking and rolling with me always. Enjoy the rest of your week. For Saturday, we will have a podcast this weekend, but I think Crowley and I are going to try and play some pond hockey on Saturday as well, too. So it might not be uploaded as fast as we typically do these instant reactions throughout the season, but we will have another podcast for you at the weekend. And hopefully some good news as it relates to what would be a much-needed win for this team. Again, it's tough not to be discouraged about this one, but that's also the good thing. That's also the double-edged sword, the good thing about the nature of the beast that is the Big 12 Conference. Yeah, you lose a frustrating one. You get blown out Saturday in Kansas when it was a one-possession game at halftime, and they just smoked you in the second half. Then you come home to the Coliseum, really frustrating, 5 o'clock tip-off, another remote broadcast from ESPN, bunch of BS. You're ticked off. But that's the good thing about this conference. You don't have to stew in it too long before you get another opportunity, and they'll get that here in just a few days and a chance to beat a really good team in Texas Tech. So we'll talk to you guys after then. Enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy your weekend. I got a bad feeling that come Selection Sunday, we're going to look back at one or two games and say, if they could have just gotten those, they'd be in. But now we're going to be on the bubble. That one was there for the taking. But again, the beauty of the beast that is the Big 12 Conference. You got a chance Saturday. Go get that taste out of your mouth. Go get a big dub against the Red Raiders. Take care, everybody. Let's go, Mountaineers. Let's go drink some beers.